All right, well, welcome back to week 2, or is it 3? Well, if you are in my class, this is week 3. But if you're just watching it online and working your way through the videos online, then this would actually be week 2 for you. So we're going to call this week 2 and 3 kind of combined. And we're looking at the world goes to war. That's the topic for this series. And specifically this week, we're looking at modern capitalism and how that sets up the world, sets up the global stage for World War I. So let's dive in. Now, as I was saying last week, we're going to approach World War I more like a detective, like a forensic historian, more than just dates and the common textbook sort of responses. We want to get into the nitty-gritty, look at all of the evidence and all of the scene, find out from different perspectives, interview different people, find out what is going on and who is backing what. And that means that we got to look back at that situation, the problems and the opportunities and the choices that people are making, that nations are making, empires are making. And we tend to think of World War II or historical events in the standpoint that a whole country makes a decision and it's a response from another whole country or people group. And that's not really what's going on. That's very surface investigation. That's textbook history. I want to get behind it. I want to go underneath and look at the motives, because there's people within people groups that are moving and shaking and making things happen and creating stirs, and we need to get behind that. And this cycle of situations, new situations popping up, presenting new problems, new opportunities, forcing people to make new decisions, creating new situations. Again, this wheel, spinning of the wheel, is going faster and faster and faster with each progressive year as we move into the 20th century. And so we have to look at that, because the Second Industrial Revolution was what we looked at last week. That is a huge accelerant. It is massively building upon the inventions, the notions, the actions and decisions that are being made, and it's coming so fast that the world is having a hard time keeping up. And that presents a hindrance, something that is pulling back on the accelerant. It's kind of like putting the brakes on the acceleration. And the world, this cycle, does not want to stop. It wants to keep going faster and faster. So I want to look at some of the hindrances to this acceleration. Where are the brakes that are kind of slowing things down or trying to prevent things from going as fast as they can? And the biggest one is currency. At this time, currency is being issued all over the place by various different people. There's no uniformity really in it. Some countries, some nations, some empires emphasize silver, others emphasize gold. So how do you exchange between the two? Yes, they both have value, but perceived value, what people assign the worth to it, is very different depending on what country you are in and what time frame you're in. So I want to look at the difference between what happens during this time to money, to currency. And there's two real big differences. One, we get more money. That's one. The other one is we add organization to our money. And that's the big difference between traditional and modern capitalism. Capitalism has been around for a long time. Trade, markets, interchange of monies, that had all been going on for many, many years. But modern capitalism really takes off in the 1880s, 1890s, going into the 1900s, by bringing together more money and better organization. And that's what we're going to look at next, because that's definitely going to fuel who does when, who does what, when, where, coming into 1914 with the start of World War I. Prior to 1870s, France and Britain, they are gold folks. Their coins are made out of gold. They are looking toward gold as the sort of the backing, the standard of their money. It's what they deal in, is different values of gold. China, on the other hand, a big, huge international trader, is using silver. It values silver more. But right after the 1870s, both Britain, France, Germany, and the United States all go to gold. They all decide that they're going to use a common standard. Gold is gold is gold no matter what country you're in. So the value of 1 ounce of gold is the same value of 1 ounce in gold in Britain, in France, in Germany, in the United States, all over the world. That's the value that it has. And so by setting currency to that very stable sort of money, that gold, it's never going to fluctuate. It's going to stay the same in no matter what country you're in, whether it be now or 10 years from now, it's still going to be the value of gold. So it fixes the perceived value. It sets it in a particular setting. Everybody sees gold and sees the same value. So it makes it very stable. It makes it very easy to exchange British gold from your American gold, from French gold, from Germany gold. It's all very easy. It also allows for it to be very easy and very enticing to invest in other countries. My gold is just as good an investment in Britain as France and Germany, and vice versa. So at this time, foreign investment, putting your money in other people's countries, becomes very big. Take a look at this map or chart. This is an international investment chart for 1914. This is just about the time of World War I. Look at how much money is in the different regions. So in Africa, you have France, which is the green. You have Britain, which makes up the largest portion of it. That's that pinkish salmon kind of color. The purple is Germany. You look into Europe. Look at Europe. France has got to be the largest contributor, largest investor in businesses and banks and things of that sort throughout the European theater. Britain also plays a little bit of a role. China, same way. America, Britain has a lot of money in America. South America, same thing. You can see that people's money is not tied to just their own country anymore. It's tied to other people's countries. And as those countries are shifting through their situations, their opportunities and problems, and making certain choices, that affects the money, the investment, the profitability in that country that is owned by other countries. It is owned and invested because the money has been put into those countries. Again, so now you have an international world, international theater, international players that are all tied together by money and by investment, not just in industry and innovation, but now they're tied together by money. So what happens as this outcome was as the majority players in Europe and the United States all kind of go to this gold standard, what happens? Well, banking booms. I mean, massive amounts of financial institutions start to pop up. We end up with new ways of making money or handling money and investing money. We got bonds. Since there's so many new projects because of the Second Industrial Revolution going on in cities, the infrastructures, the building of bridges and trolleys and subways and roads and sewage. There's a lot of municipal bonds. There's stocks. There's a lot that's going on, and money is not staying local. And again, it's happening faster and faster because I don't have to worry about, well, how much is the Spanish coin value compared to a British pound. I don't have to go through an exchange calculation to figure that out. It's instantaneous. They're all the same. They're all gold. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody was in love with the gold standard. Because the gold, the money, currency is tied to a gold standard, that means money is limited because there's a limited amount of gold. You reach a certain amount of gold, and that's as much money as you can have in circulation. Well, this triggers less spending. Less people have less money. So they don't go out and they buy stuff anymore. Well, businesses got to keep on making money. So what they do is they take their prices and they drop their prices, trying to entice people to, come spend your gold on our wheat or our grain or flour or whatever it might be. And as a result, the poor farmer, the poor laborer, their product that they're pulling out is going down. They can't get the same amount of money for it that they used to get for it. But their mortgage payments that they pulled out through these new banks, new loans, et cetera, that money stays the same. They still have to pay the same amount of money, but their income is going down because merchants are trying to lower prices to entice people to come and buy their product. And that's, again, it's because there's a limited amount of money that's out there and people are trying to get the money. Sadly, the farmers and the agricultural industries are really struggling during this time, and they start to rise up and try to fight against the gold standard. They want to include silver, because if you have gold and silver, that means more money on the market, prices can go back up, and they can pay their bills. But in the end, the gold standard wins the day. And that is kind of interesting, because if you look, this is a political cartoon of the era, and if you look down at the very bottom, a little bitty quotes, it says, "The struggle of the survival of the fittest." Haha. You can't even get evolution out of money, much less out of everything else. They're still coming back to this idea of nationalism, the strong survives, et cetera, et cetera. It became part of the culture. So what happens to help the gold standard? So we had this struggle, gold wins. What helps it win? Well, partly what helps it win is that gold is discovered in Alaska. So the United States has this huge boom and sends a bunch of people in Alaska and pulls a ton of gold out of Alaska. Also, same time, South Africa has this big gold boom. More gold is discovered down there, and that's going to lead to the Boer Wars of the early 1900s, just before World War I. So with more gold in the pool, more gold supply, that means people could spend more, businesses rose up, and we had a little bit of a boom at that time. So that was pretty good. More money allowed more fuel to be thrown at industry and growth and markets, and the world just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Take a look at the trade here. Look at how much is going on. You have the red arrows, those are outbound. Those are things going out. And then the bluish green, those are ones coming back in. But look for a moment at what it takes to do this, to keep this momentum going. See all these circles? These are just a few of them that are on this map. These are ports. These are key ports that are being held, controlled, monitored, funded by these various investors, these merchants. You have to control these ports in order to find places to, have your ships come along and get new fuel, get coal, whatever it might be, dump off, trade, pick up. Those are all over the world, and they're popping up everywhere. Those who control those ports control the seas. And at the present time, the seas are pretty calm. They're pretty peaceful. Just to give you an idea of what is going on as far as the ships go and how much is being moved. 1870, this is a typical cargo ship on the left-hand side. This is one out of Australia. It's about 600, 700 tons of cargo. You can put stuff inside, travel it, move it, and dump it or trade it off in another country. By 1910, look at this thing. This is 10,000 tons of cargo. That is more than tenfold. That's a lot. That is a whole lot. That is a massive amount of cargo that can be moved. And that is being moved. You don't even have the sails anymore in the new ships. Instead of the ships, you have these cranes that are able to move massive amounts of stuff into the cargo hold and then out again in these ports. That takes a lot of manufacturing, a lot of movement. So by the time you get to the 1900s, all this stuff is happening. You got financial ties internationally. I am bound to other countries and their decisions that they're doing because my money is been invested in their country. There's also the need for commodities. And what I mean by commodities, I'm looking at like copper and tin, things that paper. You go down to the store and you want to, got all these people living in cities now. They're not going out to the farm and living off the farm. They're going to a local store. Well, food has to be brought into the city and packaged. It needs to be in boxes. Well, where do you get the boxes from? Well, the boxes come from trees, and that's lumber, and you have to have mills that put it into paper and then corrugated paper to make the boxes that it goes in, the cartons that it goes in. You have soup. You want a can of soup or something. So you got to find the can. Who's manufacturing the cans? And what are they manufacturing the can out of? Well, it might be out of aluminum or it might be out of tin. Some commodity metal that's going on. So commodities are now a big thing. And people are mining and pulling things out from all sorts of places. And so this whole idea of trade and how it's tied to money becomes really, really important during this time. Interestingly enough, by 1900, almost every major trader is now shutting down the idea and philosophy of free trade. Britain's like the last one, and even in Britain, they're having problems. They're even debating over whether they should put up a bunch of tariffs, because the United States has a bunch of tariffs up, France up, Germany has tariffs up. Everybody's trying to protect their own at this point. But they want the free trade. They want the ability to be able to exchange and do business with people all over the place. But there's tariffs all over the place. So the idea of free trade is starting to bog down as well. And as we move into our next lecture, next series, we're going to see that there's a need now to organize all this, to put the infrastructure in, to come up with an industrial society that needs to be created and will be formed in this to sort of settle and put all this in place. And so that's next. We'll see you in a few moments.